Hey guys, so I'm on live. Miss Owen is at the school today, and so I'm thinking she might have gotten caught up in some work there, but didn't want to disappoint. So I'm going to come on and begin reading. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start reading this book entitled Friendo. Tell me in the comments. I see that we have Kylie, Prajwala, Kaylee, that you all have joined us. Have any of you girls read this book before? Just give me a yes or no. This was a book. I actually read this book with my classmates when I was in the fourth grade. All right, so Prajwala, you have, Kaylee, you haven't. And of course, I won't read all of it. It is a chapter book. And so, what I'm going to do is just read the first chapter. And it doesn't have any pictures in it, but we can still engage with the text. So, the title of the book is Friendle. Um, and it's written by Andrew Clements, illustrated by Brian S. Not sure how to pronounce his last name. Okay. Friendo. So, chapter 1 is entitled Nick. That tells us something important. If we think about what we've learned, if we think about some of the things we've learned in reading class, is that text features like chapter titles, they all give us clues. So, tell me what you think. What do you think about Nick so far? Hey, James. All right, so Nick. If you ask the kids and the teachers at Lincoln Elementary School to make 3 lists, all the really bad kids, all the really smart kids, and all the really good kids, Nick Allen would not be on any of them. Nick deserved a list of his own, and everyone knew it. Was Nick a troublemaker? Hard to say. One thing's for sure, Nick Allen had plenty of ideas, and he knew what to do with them. One time, uh-oh. One time in third grade, Nick decided to turn Miss Deaver's room into a tropical island. What kid in New Hampshire isn't ready for a little summer in February? So first, he got everyone to make small palm trees out of green and brown construction paper and tape them to the corners of each desk. Miss Deaver only had been a teacher for about 6 months, and she was delighted. That's so cute. The next day, all the girls wore paper flowers in their hair, and all the boys wore sunglasses and beach hats. Miss Deaver clapped her hands and said, "It's so colorful." The day after that, Nick turned the classroom thermostat up to about 90 degrees with the little screwdriver he brought from home. All the kids changed into shorts and t-shirts with no shoes, and when Miss Deaver left the room for a minute, Nick spread about 10 cups of fine white sand all over the classroom floor. Miss Deaver was surprised again at just how creative her students could be. Think about that so far. So Nick, this kid, he decided to turn their classroom into a tropical beach. So they had flowers on the desk, they wore shades, you think he's a nasty kid? They wore shades, flowers in their hair, and he put sand on the floor. And each time so far, the teacher is saying, "Oh, how creative. Oh, that's so neat." Do you think the teacher is really thinking this is neat? Or is she maybe a part of the joke? Or is she, I don't know, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about the teacher? Is she really thinking this is creative, or is she possibly setting Nick up? Tell me what you think. I'm going to keep reading a little. But the sand got tracked out into the hallway. But the sand got tracked out into the hallway where Manny the custodian did not think it was creative at all, and he stumped right down to the office. The principal followed the trail of sand, and when she arrived, Miss Deaver was teaching the hula to some kids near the front of the room, and a tall, shirtless boy with chestnut hair was just spiking a Nerf ball over a net made from 6 t-shirts tied together. The third grade trip to the South Seas ended suddenly. So you think she's a fun teacher, James? But that didn't stop Nick from trying to liven things up. Lincoln Elementary needed a good jolt once in a while, and Nick was just the guy to deliver it. About a year later, Nick made the great blackbird discovery. One night, he learned on a TV show that red-winged blackbirds give this high-pitched chirp when a hawk or some other danger comes near. Because of the way sound travels, the hunter birds can't tell where the high-pitched chirp is coming from. The next day during silent reading, I feel like something's bad gonna happen. Nick glanced at his teacher and he noticed that Mrs. Avery's nose was curved, kind of like the beak of a hawk. So Nick let out a high, squeaky blackbird peep. Mrs. Avery jerked her head up from the book and looked around. She couldn't tell who did it, so she just said, "Shh," to the whole class. A minute later, Nick did it again, louder. Peep! This time, there was a little giggling from the class, but Mrs. Avery pretended not to hear the sound, and about 15 seconds later, she slowly stood up and walked to the back of the classroom. So you think she's pretending, Kylie? So James, you think that the teacher is just fun and she's allowing all of this, and Kylie, you think that she's probably just pretending? Let's read on and see some more. Let's read on. 2 more pages for today. Without taking his eyes off the book and without moving at all, Nick put his heart and soul in the highest and most annoying chirp of all. Peep! Mrs. Avery pounced. "Janet Fisk, you stop that this instant." Janet, who was sitting 4 rows away from Nick, promptly turned white, then bright crimson. "But it wasn't me, honest." There was a catch in Janet's voice, as if she might cry. Mrs. Avery knew she had made a mistake, and she apologized to Janet. "But someone is asking for big trouble," said Mrs. Avery, looking more like a hawk every second. Nick kept reading, and he didn't make a peep. At lunchtime, Nick talked to Janet. He felt bad that Miss Avery had pounced on her. Janet lived in Nick's neighborhood, and sometimes they played together. She was good at baseball, and she was even better at soccer than most of the kids in the whole school, boys or girls. Nick said, "Hey, Janet, I'm sorry you got yelled at during reading. It was my fault." Well, duh, Nick. "I was the one who made that sound." "You did?" said Janet. "But how come Mrs. Avery thought it was me?" So Nick told her about the blackbirds, and Janet thought it was pretty interesting. Then she tried making a peep or two, and Janet's chirps were even higher and squeakier than Nick's. She promised to keep everything a secret. For the rest of Nick's 4th grade year, at least once a week, Mrs. Avery heard a loud peep from somewhere in her classroom. If we come back to school this year, I don't want any peeping in class, okay? No Nicks and no Janets, no peeping in class. Mrs. Avery never figured out who was making that sound, and gradually she trained herself to ignore it. But she looked like a hawk. To Nick, the whole thing was just one long and successful science experiment, and Janet Fisk enjoyed it too. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 1 was all about Nick. So what I want you to do, I'm going to hang around just a few more minutes. And I just want you to tell me what we know about Nick so far. So what do we know about Nick so far? Based on what he said in the book, based on his actions, what do we know about him? And I see that we have some others who've joined us. Miss Owen wasn't able to join us for the reading, and so I read chapter 1 of a book I read when I was in 4th grade. And the title of this book is Frindle. And so what the students are doing now, they're telling me what we've learned about Nick. Okay, I see someone said they read the book in 2nd grade. Tell me who you are. All right, so James, you said that Nick is fun. Kaylee, you says that Nick is a troublemaker. Kylie, you say that Nick is very sneaky. I think all of those things are true. Oh, Harmony. Okay, thanks for joining, Harmony. And someone else here also says Nick is a troublemaker. I think it depends on who you're asking how they would characterize Nick. All of the students probably thought Nick was just a lot of fun. I'm sure he always took them on an adventure, but all of the teachers probably didn't think so. So that first chapter is about Nick. Chapter 2 is about Mrs. Granger. And so the next time we come on, I'm not sure when, but I'll let you know. We'll read chapter 2 and we'll continue going through this book through the end. It's a very good book. I'll see if I can find it online so that those of you who are joining me, you can have the text in front of you as well. Let's see, Prejwala, he's creative, a troublemaker, sneaky person, and funny. Make lots of problems. Yes, I agree with all of that. And we can definitely pull evidence from the text to support that. So thank you guys so much for joining in for this reading. We will be back at 7 o'clock. Big imagination. He definitely has a big imagination. Yeah, because he wanted to turn the entire classroom into a beach and did the sand and the trees and the shades and everything. I would definitely agree with that too. But we'll be back at 7 o'clock with a special guest reader, Miss Waymeyer. So if you're able, click on that link. I'll share it on my Facebook page, but it's also in Class Dojo. So I hope to see you guys at 7. Enjoy the rest of your day.